This started. Hello, everybody out there in internet world. How y'all doing today? Having fun? You're alive. I see some of you made it through the deep freeze that was that few horrible negative weeks. So we're gonna hit it. It is 6:30. We are gonna get started again. Oh, I closed the agenda page. Let me open that back up again. Um, so, all right. So we shall go ahead and get this party started. Um, First off, we're gonna recap the off-cycle board actions, which the only thing on the list for this evening was the bylaw revision to change the bylaw section relating to quorum from stipulating needing 5 people to 2/3 rounded to the nearest whole person. And Christina, I believe you said that did pass.
Yep, we got 10
Okay.
yeses and 1 no.
Okay, so that will be updated in the bylaws, and that will be our new requirements for quorum, which is what we need. Without quorum, or if we do not meet quorum, then we can start a meeting, we can discuss things, but we can't hold any business like votes or anything like that unless we meet quorum. So that's kind of why that's an important thing, especially like a situation like right now where we only have 6 people, or if, heaven forbid, we were to drop down to 5 or 4 board members. Next thing on the list is the open session, where we usually reserve the first 30 minutes of the meeting. I almost called it an episode. First 30 minutes of the meeting for for anybody anybody in the audience to ask any questions, staff, even some board members if there's things that aren't on the list that they want to bring up. So we'll give everybody in the chat a minute to catch up and get anything typed out. By the way, does anybody know how to make that bar on the bottom of my screen go away?
You can no longer make it go away. So when you're doing OBS, I have to manually set the screen so that falls below what's projected. But you can no longer make it go away in full screen like you used to be able to.
There, problem solved. On the fly. All right.
So
just kind of slowly shrink.
Allie did post a question about, is there a way to set up paying for an ATC membership due? It's already active on the Anime Twin Cities site. If you go to About Us and Membership, there's a form there and a link to buy membership and make a payment.
Yeah, well, I don't know if were you in the meeting where they pointed out there was an error with it? It was either a staff meeting or a board meeting.
If it was last month, then no, I was sick.
No, it was one of the last board or staff meetings. Somebody had pointed out that there was an error when they went and tried to purchase a membership, that it aired out. But I think, Kim, didn't you? I thought you got that fixed.
I did fix it, and we actually one purchase made, so I know it's working.
Sweet. All right, so yes, Allie.
Fine.
So I was wrong yet right. Somehow.
Not the strangest thing to ever happen. All right. Looks like nobody else is throwing out any questions. I have not heard of any equipment rental requests, and we don't have anything on the list for planned discussions from any ATC partners or any visiting parties. So let's roll on to the coordinator updates. Troy, with Anime Detour, let's get started with you, good sir.
We continue to work on the different technological aspects of the upcoming online convention. Everything from, programming is, I think, just about entirely finalized. We'll be starting to push that out as far as on social media. I think we've made, I believe Kim has made I think it was in 2 different payments. Is that right, Kim, to the Hyatt?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So we are, I think we might even be a little bit advanced on the payment. I believe there was 2 back payments and then the 1 payment that would be due when we sign the 25-26 contract. So that's essentially paid in advance. So all we have to do is sign those contracts. Review them, see if we have any amendments, etc., to make, and just return the contract back to the Hyatt. Look, did you have something, Tristan?
Yeah, I just
have your hand.
Yeah, no, on the 3,000, because I remember when you were talking about it. I just wanted to clarify for my brain right now, because long day, bad numbers. The 3,000, is that 3,000 per signed contract or 3,000 per year signed on the contract?
We're supposed to be 3,000 per year,
Okay.
essentially holding our spot for the year. So essentially that holds our space, etc. However, I was able to work with the Hyatt, and in addition to sort of those are really the only back payments needed. So there wasn't anything from any previous years. They would have only been paid for it anyway. So we were able to negotiate with them that going with a little more, the payment schedule, I think, was $6,500 within 6 months. That 3 payment schedule, we were able to then negotiate and have it just be 3,000 per signed contract. So we have the 3,000 to cover 2022. The second, it was a $6,000 payment, so 3,000 for 2022, 3,000 for 23 and 24, and then Kim prepaid the 3,000 for 25 and 26 contracts yet to be signed. So,
I have, please note, I have not paid the new ones yet. Amanda didn't send me an invoice for those.
so how
Only
much
sent-
was it? 9,000 that was paid, or 6?
I paid 6 today.
Okay, so her email to me was a little confusing. So essentially, we are not prepaid. Cancel that. We are caught up. Well, yes, we are prepaid. We are paid for 22 with 1 payment of 3,000. The second payment of 3,000 is for the 23-24 contract. So that holds our spot for those 2 years. We'll have 1 more payment when that 25-26 contract is signed.
Correct.
Okay. There was something else. I forgot what it was. So essentially, the primary focus is now on it'll be on social media push for the next couple of weeks, and then culminating that first week in April with the online convention. I think I remember what it was, Kim. So realizing that Detour, just the timing of it, Detour's budget had been approved as if we were going to be able to be held physically. Obviously, that had changed. Would we still be agreeable, Kim? Obviously, we would not be looking to spend that approved amount. But are we still okay? I imagine we may have a very few departments between now and the convention cycle that might have some expenditures. They may be more sort of, tech or website related. I don't imagine there'll be a ton of like physical goods. Our intent was to have department heads sort of send that request through the vice chair so that the executive team is keeping sort of an eye on expenditures for the rest of this cycle. Is that something agreeable to you and the board? Like I said, I don't think we'll have a lot of expenses, but we may have a few needed to kind of support things.
I can imagine so. I would believe so. I mean,
I just know that we had never made any sort of
I mean, I guess understood that there would probably be a few expenses. And
yeah.
or,
You know, there's a few that have come up, and you know there may be a few more, but obviously we'd like to keep spending to, you know, rather necessity and things like that. But we hadn't, you know, we had specified for a physical con, and obviously we should need much less in expenses between now and the end of the budget cycle, at least as far as departmental stuff. So
and I could have swore when we were talking
that previous vote, we never said that you had to have the physical convention, and I believe we even had explicit discussion that yes, we approved the vote and we approved the budget, knowing that it was possible we wouldn't have a physical convention and that we would trust you to handle your budget accordingly. So
yeah, I just thought I'd make sure that, you know, things, you know, the change from physical, like I said, to you know, you guys hadn't specified or tied my hands in any way. I just wanted to make sure that there may be some expenses coming in, lest anyone think, well, you know, we have nothing really physically. But like I said, they'll probably be mostly like IT or perhaps website issues, or, you know, random physical things. But unless there's any other questions, like I said, the primary push is for online, and then, you know, lots of work after that in terms of, you know, trying to prep for 2022 and sort of, we have a number of leadership positions we'll be looking to fill. So that'll be priority right after the online convention, so that new heads can either work somehow with the outgoing heads, or you know, have time to prepare. But unless there's any other questions, I think that's just about everything specific to Detour.
Troy, it looks like you have a question in the chat from Cynthia Letterman, asking for confirmation that AD does not need services or staffing from furry migration and Minnesota furs.
Tristan, are you able to speak to that?
I know with Ashley, Drew, and myself, we've been sitting down, and I think from the tech end, we've got like the hosts and stuff pretty down pat. As far as words failing me, Dave, help. People in Discord, you're muted. Moderators and stuff, I think.
Chat moderators? We
Yeah.
have panel moderators for all the panels.
Okay.
We need chat moderators, but I don't know with Minnesota Furs. I was going to open it up because I know several of our departments have asked, what can we do to help? And we're going to ask, you know, I'm writing the chat moderator handbook, and we're going to do that. But I guess if Minnesota Furs and, you know, wants to volunteer, that's good.
More chat moderators is better.
But it hasn't been opened up to the entire staff for Anime Detour yet either, right?
No, it hasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it hasn't.
I think the wouldn't say the issue, but the timeline of it is Minnesota Furs had and furry migration, they had to, like us, transition to online, and had a very successful online convention. So as we were transitioning and then confirming, they'd reached out via email to say if we needed any help, assistance, advice, collaboration, that sort of thing. So if they hadn't yet, if they hadn't yet heard back, if there's anything you can use them for, or if not, but they have extended, they've been through it and they've extended an offer to help. So if we can make some use of that, let's remember that they are out there willing to jump into this with us. But outside of that, And if we can, if Tristan more on the, or whichever one of, if we can just at some point in the really near future re-gauge if we would like any help from them, and if not, we'll just drop them an email and say everything's covered or how they could help or anything like that. But I will say, I want to make sure and say here publicly that a number of people have been working tremendously hard behind the scenes. Dave and his team, Ashley, Drew, and Tristan. Not to leave anybody out, but those have been sort of my primary contacts. So they have been working very hard, excuse me, just get this up and running from an idea, which I guess is sort of how all of our great conventions start. But so just keep in mind that however successful this ends up being in April, I'm very confident about where we are now. There have been hours and hours of work and conversation, so hats off to all of the people involved there. But yeah, outside of that, that's our focus for about the next month or so.
Okay. Cynthia, if you want to email me, my email is tristan.anderson@animedetour.com. I know we got some stuff that's going on this week as far as emails and stuff. I'll touch base with you probably tomorrow. See what you guys have, what you guys were looking to fill in, and that way we can, when things start coming up, we can direct it from there. I don't want to say no. I just don't want to say yes before we've got all of our ducks in a row.
Troy, what positions are open now?
Long time registration, not registration, reservations, which we've had some leeway on for the last 18 months or whatever it's been because of a lack of a physical con. However, certainly as we return to that, it would be easier to have someone Mike Niketa would certainly be working with the person, but it will certainly be easier for him to not have to balance being the one reservations staff and a vice chair. Logistics will be posted. We're going over the position description, basically building one to make sure we have it. I feel it's better to have a position description before we open a position. We're at that point, so logistics will be open. Buttons has just had to step down effective immediately this past week. So that position will be open. It was talked about at the department head meeting that we had this past weekend. Due to the sudden nature of it and the close proximity to the convention, I know that you and Tristan are moderators on the Facebook. As far as some of the other social media stuff, we're going to try to and we know that both of you are in departments that have a number of things you're working on in preparation for the online convention. So mostly the executive team will be looking to, we won't have time to announce it, open it, that sort of thing in the 3 weeks before the convention. And obviously with online convention, for lack of a better word, the marketing of it and the constant sort of social media pushes about Artist Alley stuff, programming stuff, things like that, to try and bring as many folks into the event. We didn't want to have such a large gap, so we figured temporarily the executive team will handle a lot of that. And then we will do the sort of full push for a replacement or to fill that vacancy.
Are you saying that Andy is going to take over social media until then?
No, it would just most likely be the executive team as a whole, so that we have 5 people, in addition to, like I said, you and Tristan being moderators. If we need to make a post, we have 5 people willing to do it without adding more work to either of you two. Okay. So it probably won't just be one person, but use of that 5 for the next 3 weeks should, make it a bit equitable workload. and then still open charity auction. They were both stepping down. Plan was, post convention, which is still the plan, just post online versus post physical. And I
Okay.
think that's it. So again, like I said, we'll probably do a spread out push after Detour. Put some more, as you'd helped us with, the graphics and things like that, and getting those posted to Twitter and things like that. So,
Do you need more graphic? Does Themes need help with graphics?
I don't
I'm
think
not offering my help. I'm just wondering.
No, not that I'm aware of. I don't know how much different, stuff that we're using. I know that they were going to look at maybe some overlays and stuff like that for work within the online convention. But if we'll probably, we'll use some of the same graphics for those position description or for the position announcements, and then it'll just be, text for the position description. Tristan?
Quickly, can you touch base with me after the meeting? It's not an important thing right now. Just a couple of questions and notes about the logistics position.
Okay.
That is things that I fear our current person stepping down may have overlooked. Okay,
and also I can forward you we reviewed the position description best we know it, but maybe I'll also kick it over to you if you in that vein can see.
Yeah, since he and I have been doing a lot of stuff, locker organization and stuff, is just little things that would be a ribbon or a little bow on it. So
okay, that's all I have.
Okay,
unless there's more questions.
No, I actually wanted to roll back to a question Allie had way a bit ago. I just wanted to wait till we finish up the Detour stuff. Allie, regards your questions about getting communications out about the membership, dues and such, that is one thing that we learned about last year, and I have been very cognizant of. Tonight is we are planning. We're going to have a discussion about the annual meeting, which according to our bylaws are in the past our annual meeting, which is the end of the year when the meetings are held. That has always been held during the Detour postmortem, but going forward, that meeting is going to be held at a different time than the postmortem, to make sure, try to keep that separation from Detour and ATC. So we were going to be sending out I was intending to have an email sent out about that, detailing how memberships are working with badge rollovers and that kind of stuff, once we have an ironed out date, so that we can tell people, this is the process, it needs to be done by X date, that kind of stuff. So yes, we are. Yes, that is on the to-do list. Dave, anything new on the charities front at this point?
Sorry,
you caught it.
It's going to talk. Yeah, the person who I was discussing with the person who was interested in the charities position. We've discussed through email, not much, but again, I'm just going to be sending a letter out to the people we have saying we're not going to do anything, but I'm not ready for that because right now most of my free time is spent on this programming thing I also do. So, but I have had discussions with someone who may be interested in the position.
Okay.
The officer position, not.
Yeah. Okay. Rolling on into same as usual, communities, communications, and SOS. There's really not been much. Same, just kind of holding pattern as the last few months. Nothing new there. Which brings us over to finance with Kim.
Okay, sorry, Christina, I didn't send you the paperwork, so I will speak slowly. As of today, the bank account number is $173,360.59. The education fund and the light fund are unchanged. The education account sits at $2,262.47, and the leg account at $12,000. $998.73. So then everybody should have gotten their February financial report yesterday morning. We received our quarterly payment from Amazon Smile, which was nice. And we did receive one ATC membership purchase. And then I guess the major expense, obviously, that's starting to come through was registration refunds, which were at just under $77.50, so, which isn't too bad. And there have been, I think, 6 registration refunds so far for the month of March. So it's kind of slowing down. And I don't know, they have until June or July, I think. So I'm sure as more posts go out, it will fluctuate greatly.
Significantly different than I was thinking.
Yeah, it's
In a good way.
A lot better than I would have originally anticipated. You know, Troy, I thought last month I've kind of been waiting. I haven't pushed anything, but I noticed that the financial reports are still not up on the ATC website. I thought that maybe you were going to first discuss that with Drew, if that was a task that we wanted him to do. I hadn't heard anything, so I haven't asked again about getting them posted.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that
Me.
I wasn't going to be that. I thought Tristan.
Nope. That was me. It's in the busy of the pre-con and the virtual con and everything. It did get pushed back. I did message Drew last weekend. Unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to sit down and do things, or go over things. But we will still be able to get it up there. It's just a matter of who we have to go through to get it up there.
I mean, if Kevin is willing to at least load it up so Drew just has to hit OK, I think that's how we've been handling things right now, especially with the convention coming up in, I believe the countdown timer is like 23 days. Drew's probably going to be more focused on the convention right now. I know there was a little snafu with the website last night.
Yeah, whenever you want to let me jump in on that, Tristan, that was the thing that I was forgetting, but it can wait till whenever.
Which, what, who, what, how?
So first of all, just to clarify, that having that question about who's posting on ATC was more for clarity. It wasn't a this guy can't do that sort of thing. Just so there's that. But we haven't. We had an issue with the website last night, and I would say the easiest first step out of it was to roll over to the website that Drew and his team were working on. There's still at least 2 issues. Is that the registration system isn't operable at this time, but we felt like that was negligible right now, as we are not open for registration and we have a little bit of time on that. And I believe the other issue was the contact form. So part of that question asking for Kim was we may have to purchase a plugin. So right now the website will look different, and we'll still be getting worked on. Obviously, there's not any guests of honor or things like that. So there has been a switch over. My intent was to check with Drew, and if he was agreeable to it, that we would either announce that publicly, but at least on the ATC staff Facebook, so that people knew what was different. So that's that. Ashley?
I just want to clarify, in case anybody's listening and didn't follow, the Anime Detour website is separate from the Anime Twin Cities website. And when Troy said the registration doesn't work, it meant you can't access and register on the AD website. It does not
Yeah.
affect your ability to buy an ATC membership on the ATC
Yes.
website. Those are separate, just in case it wasn't clear.
No, it wasn't. Thank you. I meant, well, it wasn't clear
Yeah.
for me, so thank you
Yeah.
for fixing
So-
my mouth.
Well, and I know that the membership is working. Allie did just do hers, and I just got her confirmation, so it is
Yeah.
working very well. So
But
It
the
was just
website
in
is
case
very
somebody
nice.
didn't catch that we switched between websites there really quick.
that's all right.
Yeah, the newly designed website is a really nice update. We'll probably hear more from Drew about that at the staff meeting, only because there was a lot of words and stats and things. So I do know that one of the predominant things worked on with the website was many fewer clicks to get from place to place. And it's a really snazzy layout. So we'll make an announcement after I get the okay from Drew. And there's not a lot to look at because we didn't have stuff, but there will be. So just in case everybody knows there was a changeover. That was that.
Well, so they're still working on it.
Well, they're like the registration issue they'll be working on, and I think there was something with the contact form, but it was.
It just looks kind of janky right now. But if it's still under
No,
construction,
it looks nice. It's just those two things they were working on as of last night. I don't have an update as of today. So, but like I said, we felt the registering for Detour on the Detour website was not an issue since nobody's registering for the online con, and it'll be sometime after that, a few weeks before we are probably even preliminarily ready to open registration for 2022. That's all. I keep saying that, but you guys keep.
So if I need to resend the financial reports, just let me know who I need to send them to, and I will. I think that
send them to Kevin. Kevin said he'd upload them.
All right, I will do that tonight.
Yep.
Kevin,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. It's very appreciated.
that is all from me.
All right, get back to my page. Wrong page. There we are. All right. So that rounds out our coordinator updates at this point. Next, usually we got the option for a 15-minute break. If anybody feels that that is needed, we can take it. Otherwise, we can just kind of roll on into everything. All right, not seeing anything there, so let's just roll into things. So first thing on the board project section is the GPS, is essentially our GPS contract. So the discussion last month was to continue with our GPS contract or not. Looking at the pros and cons of it, it kind of came down to yes, it staying in the contract. It does help us provide that nice, fun, geeky space to gather in. But then again, that comes back down to the gather part of things, which we haven't really done in over a year at this point. I haven't been able to do, especially with we transitioned to the online stuff. And at this point, trying to trim down our expenses to make sure that we're not just throwing money in the wind at this point, because we don't know how long this is going to last. It's the matter of keeping it going, keeping and paying for a space that at this point we can't use essentially for things that we would need to use it for. I know from the financial standpoint, it to me it doesn't make sense to keep going with it as is, to keep spending the money and not being able to have that space to be able to utilize it. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Is this something that we'd have to like would it be like a policy vote, or would it just be a decision?
This would just be a
I
decision
don't-
because we signed a contract. So this would just be a decision to terminate the contract.
So how long is left on the current contract, or is it up for renewal?
We just renewed it. I think it was the year before. I think we are in. I think it's year 2 of 3. Kim.
Is there
It was-
even a way to terminate that contract?
Yeah, I think you have to do it a year in advance, according to the terms of the contract, if I'm correct.
I believe that's what has been discussed in the past. Yes.
Kim, you were muted at the beginning, and I think you were talking in response to Tristan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I need a moment to see if I can
Oh,
find
okay.
the contract.
Mm-hmm. I know you sent it to me. That's what I was looking. One of the things I've been trying to find.
I have it in my email. It's just a matter of which Detour ATC folder it's in.
Yes, Dave. You're muted.
Dave, you're muted.
2019, 2020, 2021 is the current contract.
So it would end after this year.
It would end. Let's see the terms of the contract.
I
It
think
would
Or is it-
It was April 30th, 2022.
right.
Okay, so April is the end of our second year, and then April 2021 to April 2022 is the period of the third year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I believe we had brought up that point in the last meeting. We haven't discussed it since the last meeting, but I thought we were under the impression that that didn't really matter, but I don't know. That's what we said last time.
Do we even have the ability to cancel the contract?
Please hold.
I'm trying to read it, but I don't know where it's at in the agreement here.
I mean, has that even been sent?
Separability. In case any one or more of the provisions contained in the agreement shall be invalid. No, that's not it.
I mean, has this been sent to the board? If it has, I'm unable to find it.
Yes, I provided it on July 14th.
It's in the first paragraph talking about the agreement that talking about the dates, unless terminated by either party providing written notice of termination to the other. Notice of termination must be given not less than 1 year in advance of the termination date.
So in effect, at this point, terminate or not, we are still liable for the remainder of that of this contract because it's terminating it now would still put us into next year.
Yeah, just based on where we're at
Yeah.
in the agreement right now.
Yeah, essentially, you would
So-
just at this point send notice that we wouldn't be renewing back in April of next year
Yeah.
if we decided that was what we were
Yeah.
doing.
So with that in mind, I mean, since there is no contractual obligation after the end of this contract, knowing that, I would not necessarily be opposed to just for now waiting to see what comes and looking at contracts if and when it comes to that time. So I'm not assuming this is going to be something like here a month before renewal. This is what it's going to be. I'm assuming we're going to have a number of months to have that discussion beforehand, because I know this was not a new thing. I know we got it 3 to 6 months before the renewal of this one. So that's something we could have another discussion of at that point, because even if we cancel today, it wouldn't change our financial obligation for the remainder of this contract.
I think the only positive if we were leaning towards canceling is the notice that it gives GPS and their ability to work through that.
Yeah, we brought that up as a point last time, is that,
Yep.
you know, if we're going to cancel it, it's better for them to know about it now than later. And that we shouldn't be pushing this decision off on the next board
Right.
in the
That is
summertime.
Well, if we're going to give GPS proper notice, then we should have an answer to them by the end of April.
Yes.
So that gives
Dave?
us a month and a half.
Yes. Is it? Yeah, it's on.
You're,
mute.
you're,
Yep, you had your hand up.
Yes.
You had your
You have
hand
your
up.
hand up.
You ready?
You
Oh
raised
no
your
no
hand.
no no! Oh, sorry.
Okay, I thought you had comments. I don't know. Yeah, so it's so yes, yes, I want to make sure we give GPS as much absolutely as much notice as possible, because you know they've been good to us. They've been good community. They've been good partners. They've been great friends. And that's dropping a sudden bombshell on them like that is not something I am in any way comfortable doing. But that it also falls down to the point of we as a board are responsible for ATC. While we do have to keep in mind how our actions impact our partner organizations, our priority does have to be ATC. So, yeah, I would say, no later than the end of. I would say no later than next month's meeting. Unless we come to a decision tonight. So
I guess my confusion is now is, I mean, if we can or can't, I guess.
Well, we can cancel as much as we want. The decision on canceling permanently is to give GPS that heads up, like, hey, come next year, we're not going to be renewing at all. We're just going to be, parting ways on that front, versus waiting till the end of the contract, looking at it, and making that decision then whether or not to continue based on the contract. Which, as Ashley pointed out, this is not something we want. With all the budget talks we've been having, this is not something we want to kick the can down the road on and put on the shoulders of a new board in the next several months. It's not a pleasant decision. It's not a fun decision, but it's still a decision that is better off made now, giving everybody as much notice as possible.
I'm okay with ending it. I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like we should warrant more conversation over this and make sure that we're covering all our bases. So, like, I do not think we should make a decision on this right this second.
Yeah.
Because yes, Detour doesn't need it now, but will Detour need it in the future? What are our actual alternatives? Yes, libraries exist that are big enough, but are those feasible? Can we bring in equipment? If we have an in-person meeting, can we stream from a library? Like, there are things that need to be considered in more detail that I don't know if we necessarily need to spend time on now, especially if we don't need a decision today, or if nobody's prepared to actually answer those questions today.
Okay, and I think we need to actually plan a time to have a off-cycle discussion then, because we tried to do that.
I already have a calendar invite started, depending on what
Beautiful.
comes up in this meeting.
Okay.
Because I'm trapping you guys in an off-cycle discussion. Teehee.
Okay. Thank you for getting that ball rolling. So, so at that point, let's let me look at the chat, because in case people have questions. there is renegotiations available. So, yeah, and Cynthia, that is kind of what I meant as far as looking at it when it comes up to term is renegotiating the terms and conditions of it. Partnership levels, prices, those responsibilities, those kinds of stuff. Seeing if there's a more appropriate something at that time. They're just kind of going over things. Yeah, you're right, Ali. Bringing in somebody would not necessarily be a bad idea to have those discussions.
Well, and at that point, that goes back into making sure we cover all our bases and not making a decision tonight, and actually having the questions we need to have answered and get, the answers to those questions.
Okay. So with that in mind, Ashley, with you making the a calendar date, Dave, I don't want to put all of the GPS stuff on you since you wear several hats in this situation.
Don't go inviting outside organizations to an off-cycle thing because it's going to include anything that we need to talk about, including annual meetings. So we need to have that meeting first before we bring GPS into that conversation, if that's where you were going with that.
No, I was going to actually see if he can find somebody else that would be interested in having a sit-down with us at some point to talk about
I'm
that.
not even tempting that until we have answers to those questions. Don't put your cart in front of the horse.
Yeah, we have our meeting first, and then at some point we have a meeting with them. But I want to know. I want to find out who can or would be willing to have that meeting with us.
Theoretically, what happens if
you
end up on the stance of wanting to cancel? Doesn't that sort of render this second meeting with GPS in terms of renegotiating a bit moot?
Yeah, I don't want to send Dave to go find a contact if the end result of that off-cycle conversation is we're going to just end the contract so we don't have negotiations. Now we're essentially leading them on because we're asking for somebody and then going, no, never mind. I kind of want to make sure that we have an answer first.
Well, that's fine.
Dave.
Well, sorry. I think they might know. I don't comment on these discussions, but I think they might have someone on their board who knows what's going on. So it's understandable. Yeah. Thank you.
If only they knew.
I don't think so, Dave, because you didn't pantomime the changing of hats. So then it's not official.
Well, historically, that's such a fun thing to do. Okay. So yeah, so then we're just gonna have something set up to have a discussion, and then come back to this after our discussion.
Right.
Okay. Alrighty. On to the next thing is the recording of the board meetings. At this point, that's kind of a moot topic all around. As Ashley did point out in the updated revisions to our bylaws, board members during the meetings have to have audio and video communication. So that kind of does write it into there that we're supposed to be streaming these, whether or not we go back to in person or not. So at that point, it's anybody walking into the board doesn't really get the option of saying it's not something they're comfortable with, because that is now a responsibility. Yeah, it is part of the rules. You follow it, or you forego your position.
I am going to point out that the required video use is only if we have electronic meetings. If we go back in person, there's nothing that requires a stream, so that would need to be amended if that's something you want. But at the bare minimum, you are required to be able to have visual and audio communication in the case that an electronic meeting is called.
Yeah, and I don't want to necessarily put a streaming requirement into the bylaws in case we end up in a situation, say at a library where we don't have access to internet
The ability,
stable enough
yeah.
to stream.
But yeah, just the fact that since the board is allowed to meet electronically, there is an expectation that you possess a camera and you are okay with your face being projected onto the interweaves.
Yep. So did anybody have any questions on that?
Just to clarify, I'm personally okay. I don't know if any other board member has a feeling one way or the other, just completely dropping that proposal since all of us are already being recorded and it's an expectation moving forward.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
In the other in an upcoming proposal to talk about, it's even mentioned in here that you have to be okay with it in the upcoming proposal from David Troy too.
I apologize if that was presumptuous, but I thought it had already been done. So I'm sorry if it's presumptuous that we put that in there.
It's fine.
No, because it's already presumed that you're doing it as a board member at this point anyway.
Okay.
Since we went to online meetings, it's been a presume. And since it's in our bylaws that we have online meetings that require video, then
online meetings have now, for the last due to last year, become an integral part of people's lives that nobody is going to soon forget how to do.
I still have to tell my coworker how to share her screen every week.
I know that pain.
I have a coworker who doesn't know how to use Google Maps.
Okay. So we are moving on from that point in the agenda.
Yep. So next is the running for candidacy and annual meeting discussion, which I think those are going to be two different points.
Yeah, I could probably make those, but
that's fine.
Do we?
So
there is a question in the chat, and then maybe do we want to take a quick break and then go into these?
Cynthia's question is actually going to be part of Dave and Troy's the discussion here in a minute. So, I think a quick 15-minute break would not necessarily be unwarranted because these next parts may be a little bit longer.
I am honestly okay if it's 10 minutes.
That can be 10. I just need something.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, everybody. So we're going to take a quick 5-10 minute bathroom break. We will be back very shortly. I really need to get a new splash page set up. and get back into the swing of things because we're miracle workers in our dreams. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. Thanks for letting us take that little break there and not burning the house down. So we will roll into the rest of the discussions for this evening. Troy, Dave, I'm going to hand it off on to you guys on a little project you've been working on candidacy requirements or whatever you may choose to call it. No, you can. If you want to share it on the screen there, we can go over it with the audience, get everybody's feedback. They can see it. Troy, can you? Okay. That would be appreciated. Let me check my volumes. All my volumes are up. All I did was mute it and unmute it. Somebody say something, please. My God. Darn it. Oh, no. Gosh. Audio input. Default.
It's from Troy. There it is.
Eh,
Properties. I doubt it. Give me a moment. I have one on my phone. Can in a minute. Here, everybody, somebody just start talking, and then the audience can let me know when they can hear people. I said talk, not kill us. Love you.
Q R S T U V W X Y
So is that we're good, Cynthia?
Z Q. Wait, what comes after Z? Oh, it's done.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
See, what's funny is because at work, as soon as you said what comes after
Okay.
Z, I said AA.
12 step. Okay. Yeah. Hello, testing, testing. Audio. Oh, mic.
The grammar is like staring me at the face. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, actually fix it. Get rid of that thing that we talked about with the parentheses. Make it go away.
Oh, this bit.
Yeah.
This just looks so big.
Oh, I'm sure
Okay,
it
I
does.
think I fixed
I
it.
can just barely see it, so I can read it fine. But yeah, I'm sure it's gigantic on your screen.
I'm on a 37-inch monitor, so it's ginormous.
Oh wow. Okay, I think the audio is fixed.
Okay, I can try and reiterate what Dave said a couple of times. Some of the key components of this is to we feel like a number of the initiatives will make us a better, more prepared, more educated, for lack of a better word, but especially with candidates before the election, will help their awareness of what is expected of them in sort of a number of different areas, but also feeling as if it's our organization's responsibility to fill in those holes, to educate people about not only their expectations as far as the existing ATC bylaws, but in the event that they or other folks don't know, is we're also governed by a number of laws, and some of the fiduciary duties of a duty of loyalty, obedience, and care is how we're to be governed and how to act, as stated by the state attorney general's office. And we have come into contact with a number of candidates then becoming board members who have no knowledge of that, or any knowledge of what worst case scenario their theoretical financial responsibility could be whilst serving on a 501c3 board. Also feel, being a bit biased, but that it's just some pretty basic requirements. So not only to educate and inform candidates about what they may be taking on, but sort of the reverse situation is to better inform and educate members, including voting members, about the candidates, so that it becomes more than the I like Detour, Detour's cool, vote for me for the board, yay. That feeling like improving some of those beginning steps can help improve the board, and then push more of that education out to other candidates, or just other members who may not attend all of our meetings and get into that sort of breakdown. So really, as far as disqualifiers, many of them, well, the two listed here are already in place, that the member has to be in good standing. It hasn't been suspended or banned, or I think the only thing mentioned in here is if they're in a current investigation where either one of those might be a outcome, and that you can't be a current coordinator and also sit as a voting member of the board. As far as some of the requirements to become a board member, again, some of these, at least one of them is in place, be 18 years or older. I think a preferred experience, preferably, they either have some experience working with a nonprofit convention, volunteer organization, etc. That's, I'd say, intentionally left very vague and broad. There's a number of different experiences that can plug in there that might not be a nonprofit anime convention. And agree to attend the board training provided by the organization. So, sorry, that's what I meant when I said that, feeling like providing that information is our organization and thus the board's responsibility. However we might do that, we've previously brought in Propel training, and we shared some of that board training with. We had some seats that we didn't fill, and we brought in some folks from other organizations. But as has been talked preliminarily over the last year or so, is having our board itself provide some specific training about the board, what's expected, and in that we could ourselves cover things like, the fiduciary responsibilities and things like that. Tristan, you have your hand up?
Yep. I just wanted to, this was kind of part of what Christina was pointing out earlier. Just wanted to point out that Sin did point out in chat that MN First is they're starting to organize board training. So to keep that in mind. So we could do that instead of doubling up and doing one of our own.
Yeah, it could be, just, I think, at the very least, there needs to be some information gotten to candidates again about what is expected of them. The fiduciary thing, like I said, is, the attorney general's, state laws, et cetera. But anything very specific to us, can help. And the last, or at least number 3, talking about the capacity to commit to 3-4 hours a week of board-related work. I wouldn't say that's a precautionary tale, but it's something that we want to make sure people are aware of, that it most likely, in a number of instances, won't only be the board meeting itself, that there are some in-between meeting discussions. We may receive, the board might receive some sort of email that requires responses, that sort of thing. So just sort of informing people that there is a certain commitment level to make sure that they, at least at that time, feel like they have the ability to commit to that. Number 4 was added. I guess depending on which way you look at it, I feel, whether sort of from an emotional standpoint or even a more professional standpoint, that we've heard from previous coordinators that sometimes they'd held events and didn't feel like they were at all attended by any Anime Twin Cities representation. Still realizing scheduling is hard. It's not a you must attend X number of events per year. Just sort of, again, sort of putting something in there about it can be a good, sort of handshaking thing. It can be good morality. But again, it's not held to a number of things. As far as some characteristics we were, looking for from a candidate, some, again, very intentionally vague history and involvement with ATC events. Not everybody comes to us, believe it or not, through Anime Detour. They might just have come to the cosplay picnic or something like that. Residing within the stated geographic bylaw boundaries. That's a bylaw. And again, sort of obviously a strong recommendation that they have the ability and the willingness to regularly attend the monthly board meetings. Some people end up out of town, emergencies, etc. But again, it's sort of just covering what is a little bit of a given. As far as, so that section mostly deals with the sort of candidates incoming and hoping to better inform them about what they're gonna, what they might experience on the board. I've heard from a number of people, and I could speak at least to it as far as myself. Unless you're in sort of regular attendance of the board meeting, that can cut your learning curve a little bit. But sometimes it can be unknown what you're jumping into. So we feel like that will sort of help a little bit. As far as informing our membership about, better informing them about candidates and making that process just a little, not the process, but making there be more information, and sort of just trying to streamline that, is And there's flexibility here. We've talked about maybe a 2 to 3 minute presentation, not really a presentation by a candidate, but very similar to this speech or whatever we've called it in the past, where people get up in front of folks at the meeting and give their spiel as to running for the board. We fleshed it out a little bit, looking to hopefully have the presentation specifically about ATC, whether their experiences with ATC, what their goals are to serve on the board. At least in this instance, sort of unless talking about their experience or how they came to ATC, wanting to limit the focus from being on only Anime Detour or other branches. You know, we really want to hear why people would like to be on, like to serve, you know, 6,000 folks on the board of directors. As far as sort of expanding on that, we'd like to have the ability to have members ask them questions, whether that's all members, voting members. There's some flexibility there. But for folks to be able to ask candidates questions so that they can make a decision with a little bit more information about who to have serve them on the board. And then lastly, feeling like it was important for the board itself to be able to also have a short interview period with candidates, as the thought process being the incoming candidates are either going to be serving alongside these board members and, you know, replacing some of those positions. So again, it's just the board might have, with the board's knowledge, they might have some more specific questions, where the ones with the membership might be a little bit more general. But again, it is not to gatekeep. It is not you know, to disqualify unless you're, you know, 15 or live in Rhode Island, which if you are, I'm sorry. But it's just to put more information out there. We don't see a negative. It is a bit more of a process, but we are a legal 501c3 board of directors entrusted with all decisions that are going to affect the entire organization, which, you know, isn't just the board, it isn't just Detour staff, it's, you know, anyone who's put together that $15 for membership. So we feel like this helps improve the organization and better serves us without, I don't think we're asking, I feel so strongly about service on the board of directors and how many different people we serve and the decisions you're called upon to make and the responsibility you have, that sort of asking folks to answer questions isn't much to ask. Yeah, you're not wrong on that, Kevin. You know, I mean, there's certainly flexibility there. You know, not saying flexibility as in denying, you know, what you're saying, just meaning that, you know, this is, you know, still a bit of a living document. As you can see, I started with, you know, 5 or 10 minutes. It was just numbers that popped into my head. Threats of physical harm from someone who won't be named. I decided 2 minutes is agreeable. But, you know, again, this is just a proposal. So no, I can say that I don't disagree with that point. And if it's just kept to purely questions and answers, then that information is, I guess, what we're looking to provide to members, whether they currently have voting rights or not. So at least questions and answers is at least, it's just that. It's not, here are my thoughts on well, I mean, is it the issue of board members publicizing their opinions, or the fact that a candidate would have to interview with the board? Because a candidate interviewing with the board of directors is not, is not uncommon in a number of different models. But
Troy,
Hmm?
it's not uncommon, but what would be the point of interviewing with the board if the board wasn't going to publicize those results? At the same time, this also seems just like a rewording of a previous idea where we would give all candidates a 10-question questionnaire kind of thing that the board made, and the candidates would have the ability to answer those questions, and it would get posted on the website along with their and then that one, it doesn't leave opinions, and the board doesn't manipulate that.
Well, the board doesn't have to give their opinion, but I think the point, like I said, for the board to interview them is these are people that are going to be taking over your seat. You might have different questions than the voting membership, so it's getting those two different streams of information. I know that I would have questions about their particular board service, so I guess that's my thought on that. It looked like Dave had his hand up.
Can I say something? Okay. Yeah. So I don't know what tampering means. I don't know. The idea for the board members making their views public is they're members too. And they also have the experience of sitting on the board. It's not tampering because it's not behind the scenes. I don't understand. I mean, are you saying a board member might say, "I don't want this person on the board"? Is that what you're trying? Is that what
the YouTube chat is kind of more specifically concerned with like gatekeeping, I guess.
But okay. In my opinion, as co-author, I'm trying to speak in a term. In my opinion, this number 3, this allow the board members to interview and give their feelings to the membership, does not require them. Nobody has to listen to the current board memberships. It actually encourages them that if they have questions on the board, and this is explained by the board members, well, this is what I think is a problem, that candidate can be more engaged and say, I know that board member doesn't like it because we disagree. No one has to. There's no recommendation here because I talked this over, Troy. There's no recommendation. This is just this number 3 is only more information. Mm-hmm. There's no a board member can't say he's not going to be on the board. That's not the point. The point is I interviewed him or her or them, and this is what I think. If these board members were elected to the board, then some people actually think, trust their opinion. I could see how it could be gatekeeping, but I think because they're not required to listen to the board members, the voting membership, but I could be wrong. That's why it's a proposal.
So my biggest concern with the board members giving their opinions is people's. I mean, the easiest way to put it would just be people's tempers. It's just people's tempers, people's interpretations of things. If I were to say something, Dave, you may take it as I'm absolutely slandering you, and then you're gonna, you go on a tirade, yelling at, telling everybody how I'm a trash person, etc.
If I go on a sorry.
I'm just using that as an example, not necessarily you get with me. So what I was
talk over you.
That's fine. What I was thinking as an alternative, like we did with the presidency, could we just do a set of questionnaires and then have also a set of questions specifically from the board members, like, hey, these are questions from the board. Could you answer a few of these as well?
Okay. Okay. First response: as a board member, you interview me and you go, Dave's got a temper, and I get on there and say, damn you, Tristan, blah, 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 like I'm wont to do, then the membership sees me freak out. Oh, does it hurt my feelings? Well, this is an important position. If people were, people could look at me and say, well, he's much too volatile for the board, or he cares, but it's for them to judge. The more information we have out there, that's fine. As for the questions of the board, 2 things. One, a personal opinion, and one, an actual opinion. If I remember correctly, the questionnaires were never answered. the questionnaires can be prepped ahead of time, and it's not really representative. Talking off the cuff, talking in front of people, is more indicative of people's abilities. In my opinion, again, it's my opinion personally. I find most questions open-ended, and interview questions, and doesn't speak to concerns regarding the way the board operates. They're designed not to hurt people's feelings, but I don't know if that's a primary concern, but that's my own personal opinion, and not to be construed as something, down from Mount Sinai.
Okay.
Ashley's hand is up.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't get into the meeting. I'm sorry, so I can't do the
Ashley,
thing.
and then Christina, and then I think fifth, and I think it was Troy.
So I guess, and I'm completely understanding where like the opinion piece comes into this. Like it's in very bad taste for members in positions of power to express personal opinions, especially when it comes to elections, generally. So what would be like? Why is this listed as a separate step? Like, is it something that we could have the questionnaire, but the board, like what's preventing the board from participating in two with the audience and organization members? Because that way the board is making those questions in front of the membership and an audience, and it's still off the cuff. It's not, because number 3 makes it sound like, even if that's not the intention, makes it sound like they're in a private meeting with just the board, and then the board is publicizing their opinion about this meeting or whatever happened in there that nobody else gets to see. What's stopping the board from participating in what's listed in number 2 and just completely foregoing number 3?
Yeah, and I think probably one of the biggest issues with number 3 is just the term interview. I know it doesn't necessarily mean this, but I think pretty much everyone that's sort of here, when you see the word interview, you're getting interviewed to see if you're going to get a job or not. That's not the definition of the word, but that's what I think everyone feels like it. And that's not, the board's decision, obviously, because it's an elected position. So if we want to somehow still keep a number 3, we want to change the terminology on it. But again, I think 1 and 2, like Ashley said, is probably good.
It might honestly be better to have the board members do those questions in public anyway, because then membership can see what their current board thinks, or how they handle the situation as well. So it still just holds us accountable.
Troy?
No, I would like to not migrate it to number 2, because there are sometimes, there's at least 300 staff, there's 6,000 members, and there may be up to 50 voting members. I think they deserve time to ask the candidates questions. They are separate questions and would be different questions than board members. So my suggestion that I was attempting to get through a while ago is just strike the opinion sentence. That's the point that everybody is contentious about. Then let's just remove it.
If you strike the opinion sentence, then what is the point of the interview period? Is that supposed to be a public interview period, or is it a private interview period? Because if it's private, what's the point? That's what I'm confused about. Because right now it sounds like this would be a private interview. So is that not what you're...
You want to remove the board members from asking incoming board members questions?
No, but if the board is asking the incoming candidates questions, how does that benefit the membership if they don't see it? If the issue is the opinion, then you need to make sure the questions and the answers are publicized, which would go back to a questionnaire that can be posted. If you want live questions and you don't want to allow the publicized opinion from a closed interview, like, is there an audience to this interview or not?
Live questions.
I'm not saying that the board should not be questioning.
Think on their feet is the point.
Well, then great. So if that's what you want to do, then is number 3 supposed to be in front of an audience where, like you take the 30 minutes in length for number 2 and 15 minutes of that is dedicated to board only questions and the rest is membership questions. And it's all done in public. Because once again, what is the point of the board getting information that does not get shared to the membership? Because you want to give more information.
There's a difference between sharing the answers to membership and sharing the board's opinions. There's a very distinct difference.
Right, and I am very far against sharing the opinion. I'd rather hear the
Sure.
answer. And if your concern is
And
off
then
the
people
cuff
make their
answers,
own opinion. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and I agree.
If you want off the cuff answers, then number 3 should be changed to make sure it's, you know, worded in the fact that this will be a public question and answer, that the membership can watch it, not that the membership is participating in it, but the membership can at least view it. Because if we're doing it privately, it doesn't benefit the membership at all.
Right, unless you just, you know, either they're watching the meeting or the information is posted somewhere. But I have no problem with either.
Yeah, because if we do like an interview, like if you and I talk privately, Troy, and I say you are a real piece of work and I hate you, we talked privately and that was my opinion I gave people, but the actual content of the conversation was I asked you a very unreasonable question. Like I don't know, I asked you to do something super unreasonable and you said no. You calmly and clearly said no, but I took offense to your calm and clear no. Nobody knows the context of your answer or the context of my opinion. And
Like
that's
I
a
said,
very
I have
easy way
no
to
problem striking that particular sentence. That I have no qualms about that at all. That's a primary source of contention. Understood.
So then is the first sentence supposed to specify that this would be done publicly in view of membership?
Well, it can certainly be revised to say that.
Yeah, and I think it probably could be just so they have their speech, and then after their speech, they do a Q&A with the board, and then after the Q&A with the board, they do a Q&A with the audience, and it's all one thing.
I think asking people to
candidate.
submit to interviews that, you know, I guess.
Or the speech can be its own thing, I guess, but I think probably both Q&As would be together.
You know,
like just for scheduling purposes and logistically speaking, like that's what I'm like, how many times are we all going to get together? Because we're going to do it for each candidate. So, you know.
I would say try to do them all. Each person have them do both the board and the questionnaire on the same date would be logistically easier.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't foresee it actually needing an hour, depending on, you know, depending on how that individual person goes. So, you know, that'd be up to you, just set time limits. But I mean, I don't see any issue with it being less than if you run out of questions.
Right, because I think at our highest, if we have 9 candidates, you know, you're looking at 9 things to schedule versus 18, which is certainly preferable, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the biggest concern is just, you know, if the contention is here because people feel like that might be tampering, or the contention is interview period makes it sound like it's a private without view. If it's in public and it's just limited to board member questions before it's opened up to the membership, like I don't see any issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, not publicizing the opinion is understood. You know, we can do the best we can with wording, but ultimately it's a little bit of semantics, and we don't know who's going to think what about what word. So I mean, we do the best we can, but ultimately, you know.
Well, and we can just work that sentence to say it's going to be, you know, a period that has an audience. It's just not a participating audience.
Yeah, and that neither of the, you know, whichever word we decide to use, none of those question periods. As Kevin said, question and answer. There's no, what's the words I'm looking for? There's no deciding factors in them other than with each individual and how they accept your answers. You know, it's not, you know, as we said, the board isn't deciding yay or nay on anybody other than, you know, their own personal opinion, I guess, if that makes sense what I'm trying to say. So again, the main focus is to better educate our candidates about incoming and better educate folks about our candidates in a not what's your work history or anything like that. Strictly, the ability to ask questions of your potential, the ability to ask questions of your candidates, potential board members.
I'm just looking at my notes from when I read through this, and I'm just going to work backwards. So number 2 says it's in the they would like to see these characteristics. I feel like number 2 should probably be a requirement rather than a.
Number 2 is a requirement.
Okay.
Because when we adjusted the bylaws, the old geographic boundary was 600 miles. Or no, was it 800 and we dropped it to 600, or was it 600 and we dropped it to 400?
I thought it was 600 to 400.
You dropped it to 400.
Yeah.
So
that is a bylaw requirement.
So then that should need to be, if nothing else is removed from a board member is required too, then that could fall into number 5.
Yeah.
Sure. It just it got into section 3 because it was written in section 3, and it was like, okay, maybe, I don't know. That's why it's a proposal to work out the case.
So then I would guess, I'd pose the question, how do we feel about 4 as a requirement? It feels a little soft as a requirement, but maybe fit better as a preference. Because what steps would we take if folks don't attend ATC events? So I maybe it isn't as strong as a requirement.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. This looks so silly on my screen though.
Ashley, if you want to give me your 37-inch screen, I can give you my 22-inch, and it'll be look
No, I'm golden. I have another 37-inch, but it doesn't fit on my current desk. You can maybe have that one, and then I don't
First
need your
world
22
problems.
inch.
Wow, first world problems.
Yeah, my desk doesn't fit my 2 37-inch monitors. It's sad. Okay, there was the only other suggestion that I had in my notes is instead of saying disqualified from being, is just not eligible to be.
That's fine.
That just seems like a grammatical thing.
Yeah, no, again, it was not presented expecting, my hopes was for, good grammar. But yeah,
You made a strong effort. It's very good. It's just not Ashley good.
What is really?
You're all ridiculous. No, it's a really strong proposal. And the amount of changes is very minimal. Oh no, we're flipping 2 things. And otherwise it's stuff like this is just purely a note about where we can go for training.
Right.
That's not even an edit, that's just a note for reference.
Well, like I said, there was expected to be some flexibility, and if we send something in that's rigid, then no.
So once we get this all cleaned up and stuff, do we want to just make a page for it on the website? Or I guess we could put it in the documents section. I just want to be able to copy and paste it into emails later easily.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Honestly, I'm fine with it once the edits are done.
Yeah.
But I am totally okay with it becoming a policy and it get posting on the website, and then using it when we send the notification out with instructions as to how annual meeting is going to take place this year, and for use in future years.
Okay, so yeah, I guess since this is a policy, it needs to be seconded and voted on.
Do we want to?
I'm not reading the whole thing though.
I was saying, do we want to do it as is, or just
As,
Troy, or Tristan, you're muted.
Peace.
Yeah, he looks like an Oompa Loompa.
Yeah, Tristan.
Anyways, do we want to? We're not doing. I'm assuming we're not doing it as is. My question was, we want to wait till the edits are done, or are we just just gonna vote on it at its pending?
My opinion is with the edits, we want to vote on it now. As co-author, I don't have an issue with it. Troy, do you have an issue with the edits?
No,
It's
not at
highlighted-
all. I appreciate the feedback and the ability to explain, further explain unclear points. So
Okay,
Thank
hang on. Kevin just brought up a good point. I do not think, now that I'm looking at what Kevin said, I mean, we can get by, instead of saying required, we can say expected. It's an expectation of your position, but yeah, I don't think required can be said right there.
Why? I'm sorry.
Kevin's
why not?
question is: do these requirements run against what our bylaws state on who can run?
So the reason is because if we were to keep the phrase required to, all of those would then have to be made bylaw amendments to include this. No,
Well,
because order of precedence, if
hang
this
on.
is a policy,
You're
bylaws trump
using words
policies.
that you don't need to use, Tristan. Once again, hang on. Sorry.
Let the bylaw queen do her job.
Yeah, so the requirements, hang on. The requirements per the bylaws is the officer shall be a member in good standing. That's it. That's our only, you can't be a felon. Can't be a felon, and you have to be in good standing. So that's where the problem with required goes in, because we don't currently require, requirement says that you can't. See, and this is where it comes, because this doesn't disqualify from it. So this is currently in the bylaws, so this is fine, because this, you can't be a candidate. Required
Coordinator
implies that you have to meet all those expectations, or you also cannot. Like it implies that you're being disqualified also. If you say you're expected to, that's your expectation for being in that position, but it is not a requirement to be in that position.
But if we say preference, then it's
we're saying
No.
expected.
expected or preference. If it's expected that you do it, but you don't do it, there's nothing to say, well, you're not doing it. Well, it's expected, but it's, there's no legal backing. Required means this is what you have to do to stay on the board.
And we've run into that issue before when we've talked about this, about like if there's any way to punish a board member, because at this time there's not, because we don't have expectations, and that's been brought up before.
Okay, thank you.
Troy,
So just to clarify for that, for instance, when we talked about board members that aren't attending meetings, how was our intent to discipline them if it's not required that board members even attend meetings?
Because that falls under fiduciary duties. So that's implied, that's above your bylaws, but like this, like experience working or agreeing to this, that's an expectation. That's not a requirement.
So
That's not something that is listed anywhere in our bylaws as as like a requirement to hold that position. If you don't have training, that's not, unless somebody does a vote of no confidence on you, there's no way for you to automatically be punished for it.
okay, so expanding on that, because that's a good point. If we're putting people on the board that don't know their roles or their responsibilities or the difference between ATC and Detour, so we're taking candidates with either no experience in a position with few requirements and no explanation of the duties, and thrusting them into a position they have no previous experience in. How is that not almost guaranteeing to set them up for fail?
Okay,
I've not heard anywhere where fiduciary responsibilities have been explained to a board.
Hang on. So okay. If somebody gets placed on the board that is that unwilling or to participate, and an expectation isn't a requirement, those are two different meanings. You can't say, a requirement will say, if you don't agree to this, you can't run. An expectation says, if you run, you agree to do this. If they refuse to do that once they are on the board, it is up to the sitting board to remove that member or to have a vote of no confidence because that person doesn't have a history or refused to attend training. then it's up to the sitting board to do a call of no confidence on that person. But you can't just add in requirements for candidacy where it's an expectation of candidates. Like, if you get on the board, you're expected to do this. And the board is expected to police itself and remove you if you refuse to do this. But you can't say it's required for candidacy to even be able to get on the board in the first place.
Right. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just trying to understand when it's been talked about removing somebody, it was something that's not a requirement but an expectation, but is covered under the fiduciary responsibilities that isn't ever presented to them.
So the fiduciary duties were presented to the board this year and would be presented as part of board training moving forward, which means the board.
I was just trying to make sure that there wasn't like a cliff that just, you know.
No. I'm not suggesting that there's a cliff, but I am just purely suggesting this one word, as Kevin pointed out, should probably be changed to expected to, and it is up to the board to police themselves that if a member who gets added to the board because they're rightfully elected, because you can't prevent them from even being a candidate, it's up to the sitting board at that time to police themselves and make sure that all board members are doing what is expected of them and holding them up to a standard. But that is not something that should prevent somebody from being able to run as a candidate.
And I agree. I just think they may question their removal if not covered in an expectation, requirement, bylaw, etc. But
right. So an expectation is fine. It's just a board member is required versus a board member is expected.
Yeah, I have no problem with the changing of the word.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily change what the intention was supposed to say. It's just somebody might read this and go, well, I'm required to do that. And
well, and that's why I suggested also that, you probably bounce number 4 out of there because we can't.
Yeah, 4 I already have moving down here.
Okay.
Dave, you have your hand up too?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I have a general question about the way the bylaws are set up. Maybe I'm under a misunderstanding, so I just want to clarify it. The bylaws are this way, but the bylaw, I had thought this was more of a procedure. Can the board set up procedures that are not listed in the bylaws?
You can't be more restricted, or you can't overstep the bylaws. So you can't be more restrictive than the bylaws. If the bylaws says the requirement is you have to be a member in good standing, you can't set a policy that says you also have to be an XYZ.
Okay, and I'm not being saying, but why? Where's that listed in?
It's because your bylaws are going to be your top tier document.
I mean, who determined that? Who determined that procedures can't be more interpreted to be more restricted than the bylaws?
The state.
That's probably in that big old bylaw book.
According to the interpretation that I was given when I asked our lawyers and several other people, order of precedence is articles of incorporation, bylaws, policies.
Yeah, but order of precedence. Okay.
As far as how the rules get interpreted, what trumps what, bylaws will always supersede policy. So if we make a policy that says this is it, somebody's going to go back and go, but your bylaws don't say that. So the bylaws supersede the policy and negate the required to part because it's not listed in the bylaws.
Yeah. There's an argument that somebody can go to and win that if we make a policy saying you have to also meet XYZ requirement, they can go, your bylaws don't say that, and that's the higher document, and they would win that argument if they decided to, in worst case scenario, go pick a fight with it, in court or something, because this is the higher document.
Thank you for the explanation.
I am in no way saying that this is wrong by any means or that it shouldn't be something to look at in the future. And that's purely just the change that it's expected to. And then it falls on the board to police themselves to make sure everybody is, operating at a higher standard.
Sure.
And not just, well, I was elected, so I can do whatever I want.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else from the board or from the membership regarding this policy or procedure proposal?
No, I'm good. I find all the changes acceptable.
Tristan, you're muted.
I said, no, I find all the changes acceptable.
Okay, so is the board looking to vote on this today? Do we want to make the edits right now so it reads as is, or do we want to make a motion with it pending the edits as discussed?
I think pending the edits as discussed should be fine.
I would be all right with that, because I would rather get this decided on now.
Okay,
So that
then I would also add an end date that edits have to be completed by March 12th.
That's what, the end of the week.
So that it is available to be posted on the website and all that stuff too.
Okay. Dave, yes?
I'm just a wee bit confused. Are we voting? We're not voting. We're voting on it March 12th, or well, this is March. Sorry.
No, the March 12th date would be, so the vote would be to approve this procedure with the edits discussed that we just discussed and I have noted. With the edits discussed, with the edits being applied no later than March 12th, so that this can be put up for public view. That's what the March 12th is.
The 12th is...
Okay.
Finalized.
So I was just, I mean, if we prove it, okay, I'm sorry.
Today is the 9th.
Well, I understand, but if we prove it, wouldn't we just change the edits right now?
Well, then we gotta...
Yeah, but we don't have to do that in the meeting. Like, just saying it has to be done and ready by March 12th.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you just do it right now. There's no reason saying we can't do it any sooner than that.
I was just confused and was just...
I feel like we don't need to do it on live stream with everybody watching.
Okay.
That was just the concern there.
I was merely confused, especially since I thought March 12th was next month for some reason. Don't worry about me. I was just trying to make sure I knew what I was doing.
This is our March meeting, Dave. I'm concerned.
Okay, so are you making a motion, or would you like me to make a motion?
I am suggesting how the motion should be worded.
Okay, I will motion that suggestion.
Who would like to second that motion? Otura is seconding that motion, apparently. She should say with words, though.
Yes, she is
yeah,
required to say with
on
words.
camera.
Sounds good.
All
I second that motion.
favor?
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
And then
Crap,
I
is that
can't
working?
actually see everyone's screen.
Okay. I can see all voting members too, so I can verify it on the
Okay.
stream.
So,
That's
all in
very
favor? So
everybody but Dave raised his hand, and I don't know if that's
Dave's
it.
hand
Dave's
is
got his
up.
hand up.
Yeah,
Unanimous,
his hand is up.
unanimous amongst all members present.
Okay. That is some wicked delay, man.
I was going to say, it's my
He was
hand.
waving.
I was like, I didn't know if you were abstaining or something. That's a plausible answer.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we got that done. Next is number 8 on the list, annual meeting discussion. So to clarify for everybody, in the past, we have had our annual meeting where we hold our annual elections and such concurrently with Anime Detours post-mortem. They've been at the same time with our new bylaw changes and trying to make sure we're separating official AT business from the business of its various branches. The annual meeting cannot be the same day or the same day and time as the Anime Detour post-mortem. So now we need to decide when we would like that to be. I know we were talking about that earlier. I know most of us are kind of on the same bench of no later than the end of May. John, yes.
Can we have it on the same day but a different time, like hour after?
No.
Give me-
Nope.
No?
Nope.
It does have to be a separate date.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We're trying to completely make a complete separation. So we're not just complete separation.
Got it.
Anime Detour can be Anime Detour, and ATC can be ATC, and we
Yep.
start addressing the confusion that is causing our membership.
Yeah.
So I know. So Detour virtual event is in what 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, April 2nd and 3rd.
2nd and 3rd. Okay.
That's not right?
It was just a weird housekeeping question, but Anime Detour, the physical convention, was scheduled to be April 2nd through April 4th. I know it's by a day, but it's just a housekeeping thing because the virtual convention isn't
We're not
actually,
doing it on Sunday.
yeah,
Yeah.
but doesn't actually count as, a convention itself because we're not selling badges. It's a free event. Like, yes, we're calling it a virtual convention, but it's only a day, so it doesn't actually change anything.
That makes sense.
I'm just being weird about it.
Let me look at something here.
Is that because there's a stipulation that
It has to be within a certain amount of days or something?
It's the annual meeting is to be held within 60 days following the scheduled end of the event known as Anime Detour as decided by the board. The annual meeting is not to be held concurrently with the Anime Detour postmortem.
Makes sense.
So within 60 days of the end of the convention.
So that's like first week of June is our deadline. I mean, I would not necessarily.
Why we need it that late. But...
Yeah, no, I was gonna say end of April, start of May. Yeah, May. End of April, start of May would give people to do the con and still get time to recover, think of things, and just keep that general schedule that we've gone with in the past of the annual meeting is roughly 1 month after the convention.
I guess my question at that point is, Troy, do you foresee Anime Detour wanting to have their own post-mortem or meetings to occur, or when meetings would resume, like any meetings in May or April? I know previously you wouldn't necessarily have that, but just because of how attendance will be counted, I don't want to necessarily go past Anime Detour starting planning meetings again of a new cycle.
Yeah, certainly most likely nothing in April. If we do elect to have a postmortem just to not miss out on that information exchange, I think we would look to schedule that in May. And I think if we follow suit, we probably would have, we follow as things have done previously, and I'm not sure unless anybody has any feedback about it now. I don't think we would have a meeting in June. Typically, I think we've sort of resumed in July to not only, I know whenever that's been questioned, it's not only to give some folks a break before we pick up and start doing this all over again, but that time is used for vice chairs to do one-on-ones with their department heads, and if we have to do any changeover in staff. So there's an awful lot of admin exec work that happens in just that month. But I don't know, does that long-winded answer your question at all? or probably not. So I think if we did resume, 99% chance for next cycle would most likely not be until July. That any meetings after detour at best would be the post-mortem that we'd probably try to hold in May, and then nothing in June. If that doesn't line up with what ATC needs, let me know and we'll bounce some stuff around.
Okay, looking at the old attendance records, the post-mortem was generally the first anime detour meeting applied to the following, the
next cycle.
next cycle.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's nothing that says we can't do it either way. I was just concerned as long as we wouldn't actually get into planning meetings, and that's just for, a consideration to prevent confusion.
Right.
So, I
Well,
I don't see a problem with Tristan's timeline where we're at the end of April, early May.
Please don't die on us.
What?
it was coughing.
Coughing.
Dave, you had your hand up? You're muted?
You're also muted.
So if you're gonna have the, I had a thing. If we're gonna have the, I was going to say, how about May 1st? Just throwing a date out there because it has nice simpatico. May 1st is like May Day. It's the first day of, and stuff. And I thought so. But if he's gonna have if you want to have the post-mortem first, we can do that. But I don't think there's really, I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong, that this is taking 15 minutes deciding a different date for the postmortem for the annual thing.
I don't have an issue with May 1st.
No, that works for me. It's a Saturday, so
Saturday, May 1st.
Yep.
Oh, I was hoping May the 4th be with us.
that's
a Tuesday, though.
That's a Tuesday.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I just had to throw it out there.
But for me, it was Tuesday.
It would be great, but it's also Tuesday.
I got that one, Dave.
And so that's the day that people would actually vote on the candidates. So that means we have to figure out all this other stuff.
That's added to
Or
my
then.
monthly off-cycle meeting that I have.
Da.
Yeah. Going on.
And if they're getting elected on May 1st, I guess the May meeting would be the crossover meeting and then they'd be full on in June.
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds right.
Yes. Yeah, they show up to the May meeting, and then June is their first board member time.
When do you have to purchase a new membership for voting?
That would be June.
You don't. Well, they would just need to purchase the new membership. That's it. Anytime.
Yeah.
We were as long as you met the voting requirements. Whenever you purchased your membership, you were eligible to vote this last year.
Yeah,
There
it's
was
just
Well, but so is
didn't
this
vote.
vote?
We've
You're-
got
This
4 membership purchases in the last 3 weeks. So are those for the next cycle? Or
yes. As far as
Especially if are they already members now? I don't see why that would be
Yeah,
why they would
so-
be purchasing their membership for the next cycle.
so my understanding is that your membership and your voting rights now, your membership ends at the end of, at this case, May 1st, and to continue voting after that, as long as you have met your attendance, you would have to purchase membership to continue voting for this next year.
Yeah, I'm gonna suspect those 4 people who purchased memberships also right now are current standing members, mostly.
So the
Right.
so the only people that would be able to vote on this are going to be the people that are members now, which is like our 24 people
Correct. The people that have been voting for the last number of
this
months.
whole time.
No. Yes.
I mean,
No.
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 Wait,
No.
People who would vote on what? On the election?
No. Yeah.
Mhm.
No. I was wrong. I was
Yes.
wrong.
We haven't calculated who has voting
Yeah.
rights for the election.
that's
They-
that's what we're talking about here.
Yes. I was absolutely wrong.
Okay. So
So
Got
it
my
wouldn't be
wires
the current
crossed.
voting membership, But I'm saying that if somebody is currently voting membership with a membership, or
If someone is currently
Something.
voting and they have done nothing else besides just voting, they can't vote at this election.
unless they have met the requirements
Correct.
from this election.
So that's why we need to figure out what those are and make it very clear and explain it to everybody.
Yep. And that those 4 people that purchased a membership, assuming they can't have an active membership, that is purchasing their membership for the next cycle.
So
Well,
like
yeah,
those.
one of them was me because I was testing the link.
No, you have just got double membership this year, and you do not get to pass go.
Well, and that's fine for me, but the other 3 people might not have appreciated that.
No.
I will donate another $15. It doesn't bother me.
I believe so, yes, Sam.
I
As long
mean,
as-
if
yeah.
if you have the attendance requirements and you buy that membership, then you should. But this is what we need to like write down, and I can email it to everybody once we figure it out. But I would like to write it
Well,
down.
and I don't know if that would work better for you, that we work out those details so that we have a clear one-time communication and we all know the answers to it in case people have questions on that off-cycle
Yep.
meeting.
Okay, you don't want to do it right now.
So
Yes, Dave, I love you
this
too.
is- I'm sure this is in the chat, but I bought a membership to Anime Detour 2020. I did not get my money back. I, of course, nobody like this. Am I not still a member till the next annual meeting?
Did you donate or did you roll over?
I didn't get. I donated.
So you donated. That is, if you donated your money, that is your current membership right now that expires as of that day when we hold
Yes,
the voting.
April 31st.
Yeah, so you would buy another $15 membership for the next board cycle. That would start at the annual, or like when the annual meeting starts on May 1st.
But I
So
could
if you
vote
bought
on. I could vote on May 1st.
No,
And
you
then-
cannot. Your membership ends when the meeting calls to order, so you would not be able to vote on the election.
But there's no way for me to buy a membership or for Anime Detour 2022.
No,
Right
you
now.
buy an
You go onto the-
$15 membership on the website.
Yep, straight from the Anime Twin Cities website, you can buy the individual $15 membership alone, no badge.
But okay, thanks. No problem.
Troy?
So, how does that work when Dave purchases his badge for Anime Detour 2022?
I have this all written around somewhere, and I do not have the brain power to explain this because I've already went through this so many times before, and I can look up where I wrote it down and send that to everybody if that will help. But I do not recall off the top of my head. I know it's written down. Because this was a thing that came up in conversation when we were doing the bylaws because of the operating year and how that
Right.
makes it weird.
Thank you.
So at this point, it sounds like you want to push this to our off-cycle meeting, and we will get a communication out once we have all the details planned.
Preferably, yes, because that
It is
what Troy
complicated
just asked
and
was a logical
confusing.
question.
Yep.
And we've gone through it before. And I don't think that the board members who were here remember going through that before because of how much of a circle that goes into.
I know that's been asked
I have
several
an
times.
answer. I have an answer. I have to look up the answer again. But it essentially falls into, because Anime Detour is a membership event, you have to have a membership, and it's like basically you have to consider Anime Detour like a pre-event of some sort. I have it written down. But it is not a logic I remember off the top of my head right now, and
No
I'm
worries.
sorry for that.
Matt McMillan says he has a question for the treasurer,
Okay.
but he didn't say what it is yet. So
Well,
you can ask your question, Matt.
let's finish up. Are we done with the whole discussion we're on right now before we delve into that?
So there's a couple things about donated didn't cover you in 2021. I believe that is correct. It was stated multiple times on the Facebook and in multiple emails. And then you had to buy the $15 membership if you donated or if you rolled over.
No, if you
Or
If
no,
you donated,
If you
you got it. If
if
you
you-
rolled over, you
never
had
mind.
to.
I
Yeah.
stand corrected. Donated, you get to keep. Refund or rollover, you had to pay the $15.
Yes.
And it doesn't go towards the 2021. You just gave us a bonus.
Yes. Because how it all operated in the
You
past
can't
was
donate and cash in a membership.
yeah. Because how it all happened in the past was when you so we have the convention. You get your badge. You get your membership. We go through and then we have that post-mortem a month later. You have your membership with that badge you just purchased for attending the convention a month prior, and then your membership goes up until the day before voting next year. The reason that you would get your ability to vote the next year was purchasing that next year's badge. So you're buying your membership essentially a month ahead. I shouldn't say buying. That's the wrong phrase.
That was
Somewhere along
confusing.
that line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We
how it
will
worked out in the past.
Figure this all out and publish a clear, concise communication about it at some point in the next month.
So many emails.
Okay, so assuming we are done with this discussion for this point in the evening, then we'll get over to Matt's question for Kim. So looks like he's got first half of the question now, and he's probably typing the rest. So just to make it clear, Matt, before Kim gets to it, I know I know the previous board had done them, but that is something we have made it very clear. Loans is not a thing we will be doing. It's not an option for us to be giving out loans. Just to make that very clear to everybody.
Yeah, I don't think everyone has the chat up, Tristan.
Oh yeah, Tristan, I don't, so I'm not.
So Matt McMillan, his question is: I've been learning a lot of how 501c3 works. I have some concerns about the private loans we have given out in the past, as well as transparency issues as well. There seems to be quite a bit of information that is held back from members, as well as dubious loan processes. Per Minnesota statutes, all members are entitled to all fiscal information.
Quick question there. Matt, have you made a written request to Kim for that fiscal information? We're not required to have it public, but we are required to produce it upon request. Like state statute says that you can request it in writing, and that we have to give it to you in writing, but does not say that we have to have everything public all the time.
We do have all our tax forms on the website, except for the most current one, which is in the process of being published.
Right. So yeah, just when you're looking at the state statutes, you just need to make the request to Kim in writing. And then, yeah, as long as your membership is paid and you're a member, then you are entitled to that fiscal information. If you do not currently have an active membership, then you might run into some difficulty there because it's only entitled to members, but I don't see why that will necessarily be an issue. Yeah, a state statute just says any member can request it, and we have to give it to you. That's what the state statute says. So, I mean, that would be your first step, is just requesting it. I don't know what you're referencing being held back from members. There's a difference between not posting certain information publicly, either for privacy or other concerns. But unless you know of an incident where a member did request it from Kim and then Kim denied it, then that's an issue. But if nobody made the request and a request wasn't denied, then there is no issue.
And also to point out
I mean, you can just specify you want the loan information in the past.
Yeah, and
you can specify what information you want.
As far as the loans, that is not something that we have ever balked at discussing. That's something that's been discussed quite a number of times, especially people bringing it up that they weren't comfortable with it. We've looked into it and we've made it very clear that that's something that most likely should not have happened. Now that most of us, a good number of us, have a firm understanding of our rules and that we are required to follow, that is not going to be happening.
Yeah, but yeah, you mentioned that information is being held back from members. If members didn't request that information, then it's not being held back. If there is members that, or if there are members that have requested that information that have been withheld, that's a different conversation. But we do not need to have that publicly. It just needs to be available upon request. Yep.
Okay, so then I think we're good, except for the last point, which I will let Tristan talk about.
Get the right. Trying to pull up the window here.
I don't know what this document is. Yeah.
Can you guys see that on your screen over there?
Yeah, in the meeting we can see it.
Okay.
You should definitely zoom in on it because it's very tiny.
Yeah, I was getting there. Okay, so come on. So where's zoom on this thing? Wow, I'm dumb today. Okay, can everybody see that a little bit better now? So this is something we had discussed at the last meeting. Because I wasn't exactly sure what people wanted as far as like a detailed, any kind of like letters or notifications to be sent out as far as the detailed financial status. I needed more information on what people wanted. So this is just a rough draft I cobbled together. I wanted to go over it because I know there's a handful of people in the meeting here that were here last month that provided some feedback, as well as the board members here. So I'll just go through, I'll read it. I gave just kind of a rough overview of things based off the points that we had discussed, as well as a little graph just kind of showing some of the numbers, for people that would prefer to just see a graph instead of trying to read it. So the last few years, our budget has grown significantly. The Anime Detour budget has grown to around $300,000. The ATC budget has grown to approximately $60,000. Charitable giving has grown to $40,000, and our past seed funds for each year was approximately $80,000. The budgets have grown disproportionately to the increase in funds from the sales of the Anime Detour badges, which is our primary source of income. In the last several years, as the event has grown, we have not grown our seed fund at an appropriate rate to the convention budget. There was an increase in focus, however, on charitable giving. In the last 2 years, we have now had to cancel Anime Detour twice due to COVID. This has made a large number of these issues very apparent due to the major lack of income overall. To reach this overall amount of around $520,000, we would need slightly more than 10,000 membership badges. This number is based on what we have used as an average price of $50 per badge. Please keep in mind that the $160,000 seed money set aside in my little graph here below, once it is set and maintained, would reduce the memberships needed each year by a little over 3,000. In the last few years, we've been trying to put some more of the focus on finding some source of funding for ATC as a whole outside of just Anime Detour registrations. Some of the options we have looked at include, but are not limited to, sponsorships, loans, grants, fund drives, and even starting another smaller event. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons, Most of these options have shown to either be not feasible or even reasonable in the case of some. At this time, we're still trying to find ways to trim the budget as best we can. This still does not resolve that issue, though, of funding. Finding a way to make sure that ATC as a whole survives even if Anime Detour does not happen, or if it were to fail entirely. And again, down here, the numbers that I was talking about. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, just so people can see more of the whole thing. So questions, I can't see anybody's hands if they get raised, so just start going.
From these numbers,
I think one of the issues I have with the last sentence is if Anime Detour dies entirely, I cannot see any sort of realistic way ATC survives. And not just based on, a thought. If Anime Detour dies, the penalties alone bankrupt ATC, triggering bylaw dissolution.
Sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I was just looking at my screen to make sure they could see it. No, you are correct there. I was looking. The reason I included that is because if for some reason Detour shrinks, and this is just me, looking at potential futures. If Detour were to shrink to the point, or just become so irrelevant that it just eventually just dies off, and not in this way, but just eventually just shrinks to the point that it just becomes not a thing. That if there was alternative funding other than Detour, there could be the possibility of some parts of ATC surviving.
Not necessarily disagreeing, just saying, with sort of the bigger picture happening that I sort of see is, we'll soon be contractually obligated to the Hyatt for considerable funds for the next 5 years. So through, spring of 2026, any shrinkage of Detour will create attrition penalties annually. And in any year that we couldn't hold the event, can trigger, I'd say on average about $100,000 per year. So I guess that was my reason for stating that, if we can't fill the hotel, there's financial penalties, most likely connected to if we can't fill the hotel, that would most likely mean our attendance was shrinking, so we wouldn't be receiving that income. And if we had some sort of, as you're talking, gradual decline for 3 or 4 years, if we couldn't rebound from it and sort of level out, and maybe, depending on the hotel's ability, like let's say we could amend a new contract for less space if we weren't having that kind of attendance. But that was just sort of my cautionary tale is, as you said, and acknowledging you saying that, without that would all hinge on additional income as, whatever high percentage does come from the income received from various streams through Detour. So I just was not nitpicking or even, complaining, just acknowledging that, some of the things that I saw as connected that, that could be harder without significant.
Yeah. And thank you for pointing that out. That's one thing in my trying to think of everything I, didn't quite put in there.
I recently had a document submitted that was torn apart. So.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to tear this one apart. So for this, I get what you're doing. You're doing, an idea of a budget and then how many badges we would need for us to be able to have this budget. But I guess it's a great thought experiment to have. But I mean, probably what we're gonna, actually need to do when budget time comes is going to be, make an guesstimate, 'cause that's all it can really be, of how many badges we think we're going to get, and then that's what we're going to have to build the budget off of.
Well, this wasn't necessarily a budget. The purpose of
Right.
this was to just give everybody.
It's just what this is, though, is you're saying, oh, we need 10,000 registrations to be able to survive. Like, that's what that graph tells people, and that's not accurate.
to hit the exact same 3,000 or 300,000 that was roughly
Right.
last operated on, even cutting out, considering this would be cutting out charitable giving and the other branches for a time, to get the detour budget, the minimum ATC operating budget, plus a seed money of $160,000. Just doing the roughly $50 a badge that we usually use, yes, it would be 10,000 attendees to hit
Right,
that number.
but we know that we're not going to get that. We've never gotten that.
Yes,
So-
I'm just saying that to hit that number, that's what we would need.
But okay, so
This
it's
isn't
just
trying to make up a
it's
budget.
just a thought experiment,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, this is just setting out the straight facts, not trying to negotiate a budget, trying to cut funds. This is straight facts. This is the numbers as they lie. This to hit the goals that we have talked about in the past that we would like to make our future. This is what we're going to need to make that happen.
Cool.
So I heard a ding. Somebody's
I
hand
think
up.
Dave raised his hand, but I can't see it.
I can't see anybody. I can just see my Word document.
I raised my hand, then I lowered my hand.
Okay. Anybody else? So I know I did not write some perfect document here. Anybody in any of the people in membership have
Okay.
anything?
I do have a question.
Yes.
This is a thought experiment. I don't. Are you asking for a badge increase?
No,
Or
no.
are you-
This is just so. At the last meeting, the part of the frustration is that people had requested for a some sort of communication be sent out to the membership that, hey, yeah, we're in a tough spot. This is our situation as it sits. This is what we're trying to get to, and this is what we would need to happen to get there. Because it's outside of right now. We got 15 people watching. Outside of the handful, maybe 20 or so at most people that have joined on these board meetings. There's the rest of the people aren't getting in to see this information. The rest of the staff, or even the rest of our membership, which does include our attendees, for the most part, it's just to get something to be like, hey, this is our situation, so you are aware.
and
and
this
it's
is just based solely on your calculations.
the based off of our previous approved budgets, requested
No.
budgets, and
Yes, but by your calculations, you didn't check this with numbers with anybody else. You just made this up and sent it to us just before the meeting.
absolutely not.
So, Tristan, are you
No.
suggesting that what you're showing us right now is what we send the membership?
No, absolutely not. As I
Then
titled
what are we
this,
looking at?
this is a rough draft. This is what I've come up with. What should we change? What is should I just trash this whole thing and start from scratch? I'm not necessarily good at writing, so I cobbled something together, and now I'm trying to find people's input to improve it.
I wasn't here for last month's meeting, but the notes clearly state that the membership wanted something that was easy to read and was a visual. This meets neither of those notes.
Because I'm confused.
Yeah, I don't. If this isn't what you're intending to send the membership, and you want, because I don't see how this necessarily address any of the concerns, or would do anything besides cause more questions.
Okay, that is feedback.
Troy has his hand up.
Yeah, actually, you touched on it in her last statement there. I guess constructively, I think the one part that I would see with this is posting this to all membership, it covers an explanation of, I guess, a little bit of what happened and where we are. And I would just suggest, I feel like a large part of it might need to be a plan of where to go. And I think if that's vague or not understood, you may find yourself, like Ashley said, fielding a lot more questions. Is that, like I said, it's been explained. Here's how we got here. Here's a few things we've tried. Some might want that next step of, if it's too vague, they might not. What does this mean? We're closing? Does this mean we're broke? Does this mean,
that was with the last few sentences of that first paragraph, and the new possible numbers. That was kind of what I was trying to get at there. Like, because I in the past, right now we've agreed that we're just going to be holding off on all the other ATC stuff until we're financially stable. 300. I know we trimmed things down this last year to try to get it to fit. But I don't know, roughly 300 is a rough middle ground. And I know we've talked a number of times about increasing the seed to at least 150, 160,000. That's where I got that number from. And then
I guess where I'm sitting right now is, as a board member, I don't understand what you're trying to communicate with this document, nor do I know what direction you're trying to go with it, so I can't even suggest edits. And as a member, I would definitely have no clue what the heck I just read at all. Because I don't even know as a board member what the heck I'm reading.
Okay.
Because if this wasn't a further discussion, like Troy said, we're still stuck on the what happens now.
Yeah, I think, if I had a suggestion, or, just from sort of some of my experience, which doesn't mean it's the only way, is that I think within the text of something like that, there are many people that, that's that next step is, here where we are, and here's where we're going to go. And I think sometimes without that, you'll have a number of people who panic or infer or just remain confused. I don't know how to necessarily address that, or I don't have, words off the top of my head to say, plug these in here and then everything's fine. So I'm probably not much help, but I think that's another key component, like I said, is that, here's what we're going to try to do, but we might not have, as a board, that, sort of fully, fleshed out plan. And at the very least, in my opinion, it'll be a couple years. We probably won't be able to correct everything in one cycle. We'll have to keep chugging along and rebuilding the seed and still lifting up every other rock to find some sort of additional funding.
Yes.
It looks like you didn't add the seed money from the previous year to the numbers on the next year.
So that's actually the last sentence I did say. Please keep in mind that the $160,000 seed money set aside, once it is set and maintained, would reduce the number of memberships needed. So I did try to make a note of that would reduce it. I was just
I feel like you also need a different measurement than memberships, because 10,000 is not reasonable.
No.
And then just again, purely constructively, that, I don't know, I'm surmising or guessing that, that could spook some people, knowing that that's not a mark that we've ever hit. And if we're saying times are a little rough right now, they might misinterpret that we now need to hit 10,000 to sort of continue or be successful, that sort of thing. I don't know, but just
no. And in taking your guys' feedback here, that's one thing I probably should have put in there, is that 10,000 badges, that is starting at a bank account with $0 in it. This is our goal. This is what we would need. That would have been better explained.
No, badges is just a bad description in the first place, because you're doing it at $50, but that doesn't accurately reflect your income, and not everybody's going to understand that you're using it to account for all income, including like vendors and Artist Alley and all those table payments that are much, much higher than a $50 payment. Because they only see that we get 5,000 badges in a year.
Okay.
And of those, ATC is only concerned about the $15, and then everything gets pooled into a single fund, and then we, separate it out. So there needs to be much more clear explanation of how the money's actually handled. It looks like you're trying to give it a measurement so that people can, figure out relatively where it's at. But the measurement you're using is so low, it's not something relatable, and actually makes the numbers appear that much more unattainable and impossible to ever achieve.
Okay.
To be 100% honest, when I first glanced at this, I thought you were trying to say, hey, we can actually have a physical con in 2022. This is it. This is the number. And I was like confused. So I had to do a double take on it.
I mean, I did cover that number in the past. If we zeroed out the account, we would need about 7,000 badges.
Yeah, and I
attendees.
think I've kind of brought it up every time you've used that sort of comparison with badges. It doesn't translate well. So,
I mean, it might translate relatably, like, to the board, because we've been talking about this, but it will not translate as a relatable number or an understandable number to somebody who's not actively in this conversation on a monthly basis.
And that's fine. And I was just kind of basing this off the discussion that had happened in the chat during the last meeting, where they said, how much the convention needs to make up, how much registrations will affect that number, list of options, one suggestion was, if we get 4,000 registrations, we'll need this much. Those are the kind of things that I was just using as kind of a guidepost, because I've never done something like this before.
Right. Well, and like I said, this number might make more sense to, like, using memberships might make more sense to a board member because we talk about it consistently.
Yeah.
But like, we all know that membership, when you talk about membership, you're not talking about that everybody pays $50. Some people are paying more than that because they have late or at the door registration, and then there's tables and all that stuff added in too. Or people who buy the partnership packages or whatever we call those.
Yeah.
Sponsor badges.
Sponsor badges. There we go.
So I guess we can probably address trying to create something better at our off cycle, which now will have 3 points.
It's already on there and on your calendars.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm going to assume that because the board notes from last one said that people wanted a visual graphic that was clear, that should also be a major focus of that as well.
That was what I was trying to do with the bottom there, but...
Yeah, tables in Word never are your friend. Ever.
Yeah, I don't do
It's good when presenting
often.
information, but not financial information.
Okay.
Because accountants or people familiar with budgets tend to read them a lot better, especially when you start adding negative values and all that. But once again, that's when you send it to general membership. Not everybody has the pre-existing knowledge to read financial tables.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was our last topic for the day.
Table that and figure out where we can go from there. Yeah. Need a better guidepost from there. We'll figure it out. So it looks like the audience has been kind of quiet for a while. Does anybody have any questions or even suggestions? I waited for the meeting just because I know there's people that had feedback last time, and I was just kind of trying to get as much feedback as I could.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it's quiet on me. Okay. So at that point, yeah, that does bring to a close. All
Dave
the
raised his hand.
Dave, yes.
I was going to motion to end the meeting. I thought that's what we have to do.
Yeah,
Yes, I will
That's what I
second
was-
that motion.
Yes.
that's what I was about to do. Beat me to it, gosh.
And
Overachievers, man.
Right. Okay.
so now we vote for the adjourn the meeting.
It's just all in
So,
favor.
Yeah.
Everybody, let's go home. So yeah, everybody in chat, don't forget to reach out for attendance to email the secretary, Christina, and then comment in chat that you are here to be counted for attendance for voting rights and such. Next meeting, we will be. We actually don't have anything on the list for the next meeting just yet. So that one may be a relatively quick one, as we need got a few more board projects we got to look into.
I just added 3 board projects today, so you know.
there wasn't anything on the list yet.
Right.
So, all right. Thank you very much, everybody. You all have yourself a great evening. Stay warm. I've been told that there is a winter weather warning rolling across us
You
in the
get outta
next
here.
day or
No.
two. So enjoy your weather while you can. Stay warm, everybody. Thank you.